Hey everybody, it's Andy. She blinded me with refractors, and today we're gonna do a episode of Grown Men Talking Baseball Cards with Michael Double X the Beast. And what we're gonna do today is we're gonna look back at a video that I put out about a year and a half ago, where I talked about what I considered to be the top 10 modern sports card investments at the time. And we're going to kind of like break down each pick and kind of see where those cards were during that time period a year and a half ago. And we're going to look at where they are today. Just kind of see what's changed as far as the pricing goes on those. So I'm going to break this video down into two parts. So this will be part one, and I'm also going to put a link to the original video, which is, like I said, I made it about a year and a half ago. It's about 12 minutes long. So if anybody wants to check out the original video, feel free to do that as well. So let's go ahead and let's get started. All right. What's going on, everybody? We're back here on Grown Men Talking Baseball Cards. This is Andy. She blinded me with refractors. And of course, my famous co-host, Mr. Michael Double X the Beast. So, what's going on tonight, Michael?
Just gonna go back and see how smart you were a year and a half ago. Recap this top 10 modern sports card investments video that you did from, I think it was July of 2018, if I remember right.
Yeah, so this is a video that I put out. We're getting probably about a year and a half ago. So yeah, we just kind of thought it would be fun to kind of go back and look at what these cards were priced at then versus now, because as you know, the sports card market has been pretty incredible over the last couple of years. So definitely some movers and shakers in here. Some of these cards probably won't be big shockers to people, but some of them might surprise you.
Some of them are probably a couple of them flat, but most, I'd say, out of the 10, eight of them probably went up pretty drastically.
I think so. Yeah, there's going to be a couple on this list that are probably a little flat at the moment, which I think those probably would be
The ones to
probably
buy,
probably the best targets right now.
probably so.
All right, well, let's go ahead and let's get into the list here. So let's look at
Let me hit the
first.
first one here.
All right, so the first card we looked at here was the 2003 Topps Chrome LeBron James Refractor. We kind of looked at what the cost of a PSA 10 and a PSA 9 were at the time, which I mean, I think that, and you'll have to chime in on this, but I think that a lot of people at this time thought, man, that's a pretty big price tag for this card. But what were you thinking back then on this one?
So let's step back in time a little bit here. July of 2018. What LeBron had probably just signed with the Lakers, correct? That would have been before his first year there, right before.
Okay.
So I think a lot of people, he came off a pretty good run with his second run there with the Cavs. He winning the one championship, and I think a lot of people, including myself, it was kind of like, what more is he going to do for his legacy? He's going to a pretty terrible Lakers team at the time, and of course they didn't even make the playoffs last year. You kind of look through the 18-19 season and what happened, and so I thought that wasn't a bad buy. Like a PSA 10 at 5,500, I thought, yeah, maybe you turn 5,500 into 6,000, 6,500, maybe, something like that. Maybe the PSA 9 makes it to 3,000. I never dreamed in a million years it would be where it's at right now. I especially with as many of those as there are and not being serial numbered, I think both of us kind of thought there's enough of them that the prices aren't going to just continue to go crazy. But we were wrong. You were right. I don't think you dreamed they would be where they are now. But
No, like this is
you're onto something here.
the price. The price is where they're at now. So we kind of looked up these cards earlier. So a PSA 9 back then was 2,500. Now they're about 5,000. And a PSA 10, the last few have sold anywhere from 15,000 to like 17,500.
18.
And a PSA 10 back then was 5,500. So, pretty significant growth on this card. I can't really say that I thought it would get this high this quickly. And I think on the PSA 10, I was looking at this the other day. I think the pop on the PSA 10 for the refractor is around 150, 160 ish.
Sounds about right.
So, and some people may hear that and think, well, God, that's a lot of tens. But you just have to think about this: like, how many people are there out there that collect LeBron James? I mean, I would venture to say a lot more than that, right?
Sure, but here's how simple that people need to keep it when they go to invest their money, right? Best player in the game in a generation, maybe the most popular non-game use set, right? You got exquisite in some of those, obviously, but that's a different echelon of people that can buy those. Hey, it's a win-win. You keep it simple. Buy the most common parallel, the silver or regular refractor in a high grade of the most popular player, and this is kind of what you get out of it.
Yeah,
You're not always going to get this return necessarily, but it's a very safe purchase at the very least.
right. And this is obviously going to be one of the better ones, better growth cards on the list. If you want to fast forward a little bit there, let's show everybody what these look like here. So there's what the LeBron James refractor looks like. Obviously, with these pictures, you're not going to get the great shine, but these are great looking cards. I think. Have you ever had one of these?
I have had probably 10 of the base, but I don't think I ever had a refractor. I never pulled one. Everything that I had, I pulled myself back when they came out, or trips to the National back. You probably remember this when the boxes were $150 or something, and
Yeah.
I busted a couple of them. I know I had a couple of Wade refractors and a couple of Carmelos. I think were the best guys that I had. I never had a LeBron though.
Yeah, and even though the base card wasn't featured on this list, the base card I want to say was probably less than $1,000 or around $1,000 back then, and now it's at like $4,500.
It's seen. I was kind of just quickly doing the math in my head. You can might as well figure the PSA 10 refractor is seeing somewhere around a 3.5 times growth, and so common sense tells you your base card is seeing actually like a 4.5 times growth, and I think that's probably because more people can afford them.
Yeah, and this is
Pretty simple.
This is a good one right here. So let's start off with a banger.
That also tells you pretty quickly this 9 over here. These are great buys right now.
I would agree.
I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with dropping 5 G's on one of these right now for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. So the next card on our list is going to be another big one. And this
came a lot more, obviously a lot bigger in the last month than
right.
Obviously anybody had anticipated, and the growth on this one is probably not the same percentage, but it's a higher end card for sure.
There's been so many times where throughout the years where I have wanted to pick this card up, and the main reason that I never got one was because I was worried about the greening on this card. Mm-hmm. And what we're talking about, if you're just listening, is the 96 Topps Chrome Kobe Bryant Refractor. And you've actually owned a couple of these over the years, right?
Two. One. Back then I didn't really grade a lot or anything, and so both of them I sold raw, bought raw and sold raw. One of them, the next owner, it was a PSA 9, and the other one, the guy didn't grade it, but I think it was probably an 8 to me. It was, that was back before they did half grades. It may have been an 8.5. It looked really good. It was had one refractor line that was going to keep the grade from being as high.
Right. So on this card, this is about a year and a half ago. A PSA 10 was around $15,000, and a PSA 9 was around $5,000. And we just looked this up. PSA 9s are now around $14,000, which was almost the price of what a 10 was then. And then the last 10 sold for, I think, like $37,000.
Mm-hmm.
So just incredible.
I think that may be, obviously a little bit inflated right now due to the recent passing, but I still think 30 to 35 is probably in the right realm. I mean, after it kind of settles down here a little bit, his prices are never going to come down to what they were. They're always going to remain high. I mean, when someone passes away, typically at early age like that, somebody of that magnitude, we haven't seen somebody of that magnitude, and at least not in our lifetime, an athlete like that pass away, in this situation like that. So that obviously creates a big market. So they're never going to come down completely, but I think you'll see a leveling off. But 30 to 35, I don't think is outside the realm of possibility. Do you?
Oh no, I don't. I don't anticipate like the PSA 10s of this card to ever be below 30,000 again.
No, I agree. I agree.
Kobe was such an iconic figure, and there's just so many people that collect Kobe, and yeah, I don't see that. Yeah, and this is the card we're talking about here. And it's so weird because like with these pictures, like I actually think the 9 looks better than the 10.
That happens. But this is one of those sets that probably happens with more than any other set. 96 Topps Chrome Refractors is eye appeal is huge with this set, across the board. And so I agree with you. I think the
centering
colors
so much better on the 9.
Centering, and I think the colors of just his arms and stuff, I think just look better on the 9 to me. But
yeah,
it makes you sick. Think back at the 2 that I had. I sold the higher grade raw one, I think, for $1,200, and the lower grade one for $1,000.
Right, but I mean, like this was how long ago?
2000, probably 11 or 12.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like it's fun to look at this stuff, but it's also it's kind of sad in a way because like there's several cards on this list that I had on my want list of cards to pick up, and they've gotten so high there's no way anymore.
Yeah, priced you out of the market.
For sure. All right, let's take a look at the next one here. Talk about price you out of the market.
and to me, this is the one maybe out on the list that, because he's such an iconic player currently and has all-time ramifications, I think this one's still at what it's at. It's probably a very safe, buy to get return on your investment. I don't think it's coming down. It may not see the big jump like it's already seen, but I think is it sound reasonable that it could gain a few $100s a year moving forward? Of course.
Yeah, and the card we're talking about here is the 2009 Bowman Chrome Draft Mike Trout auto. When I made this video, the PSA 10s were around 9,000, and I think we looked and we kind of came to the conclusion of around 11 to 12,000. So this one's kind of been
and I mean if it was a perfectly centered PSA 10, it wouldn't shock me to see 13, 14.
Yeah, this card, this to me, this one's kind of like a slow burn at the moment. It's kind of one of those that's just I think it's gonna gradually just go up and up as Trout, gets a little bit older gets towards the end of his career.
And also, you got to keep in mind too, we just went and looked, and we didn't find a single PSA 10 that sold in the last 90 days. Just doing a quick eBay search. It's off season for baseball. Here in 3 months, 2 months, you're going to see a few of these come up for sale. And if he starts off hot, it wouldn't shock me a bit to see that one at 15.
Oh yeah, and
not one bit.
And like you just said, that it's hard to find recent sales on this one, and that's because
nobody's selling them.
Yeah, I mean, this is a card that people are buying to hold long term, which I totally agree with. By the way, like, and when I put this list together, like that's what I had in mind is like long term holds. Like, there's a lot of people nowadays that of course do a lot of flipping with a lot of the newer modern stuff, and this was kind of like a little bit different list. This was more of a long-term look at things.
I typically don't like long-term investments. I don't like guys who are maybe in the middle of their career. I like them maybe being a little bit more on the tail end where it's kind of, they've kind of sowed their legacy a little bit more. But he's different to me. He's the one guy that, especially in baseball, I think he's such a popular player, and he's going to go down as one of the all-time greats. I mean, if he got hurt right now and didn't play another game, he's going to get talked about as one of the all-time greats for the 10 years here that he's had.
Yeah, and I think as collectors and if you want to be an investor or whatever, like I think all of us probably have like a set of rules or principles that we go by, but there's always exceptions to those rules. And I think, certain guys, especially guys on this list, are going to be some exceptions as far as like what your threshold is for what you would want to spend on a card. You feel more comfortable with some of these guys.
And you always look at when you're investing, you always look at like character flaws when especially current guys are still playing. And I've never heard a single thing of him come up in a negative light, really at all. And so that makes you feel a little bit safer,
Yeah, I mean, if anything, you hear people complain like they wish he was, a little more brash,
I know, yeah. He just puts his head down and hits home runs and walks and steals bases.
Yeah, so that's another great one right there. And I mean, I definitely don't think this card is through going up.
No. It's a nice one. All right, I'm gonna move on to the next one here.
So next on the list, like this is one that really hasn't seen a lot of movement, and it's the 2008 Topps Update Max Scherzer. And I was kind of surprised by this one not really moving much because, the fact they just won
the World Series.
I mean, so whenever I was looking at this card, this one in a PSA 10 was around 125 to 150. Now, I mean, they're still around 120, 140, 150 range. So this one hasn't really moved at all. So
it hadn't really moved, but I think too, that card's probably not ever going to see a huge spike. I think a lot of it, there's so many of them. It's not there's nothing crazy special about the card, but it's also pitchers are just tough. They just get looked at different, and he unfairly so. I think him and Kershaw and Verlander, those three guys for sure that should get looked at a whole lot different than they do. They're pretty awesome. And
oh yeah, I mean, all three of the guys you just mentioned, I mean, if those guys aren't already Hall of Famers, then they'll never be another pitcher inducted.
when you're the best of a generation in an era that hits home runs at record pace, those three guys are pretty incredible, I think. They're definitely Hall of Famers, first ballot guys, all of them.
Yeah, so this to me is a card that I don't know that it's ever going to get like crazy. Like what do you think this one would top out at eventually?
I think if you could pick up PSA 10s around 125, and it wouldn't shock me at all once he gets inducted to the Hall of Fame, 250, 300, yeah. I think you could pretty easily double your money on, but look how many of them you could buy,
Yeah, to me, this card's like a no-brainer as far as like, I don't see any way you're going to like, lose money on this guy.
No, but this is one of those cards where if I'm buying this card, I'm probably not just buying one of them. If I believe in buying one, I'm probably going to buy 10 or 20, honestly.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I mean, this is a volume buy. If you want a volume buy, this is it.
Yeah, I mean, at the price, you can't go wrong, right?
No, buy one a month for the next 2 years while he's still playing.
Yeah.
When he retires, you'll have 24 of them, and double your money on that. I mean, you can't go wrong with that.
All right. So what do we got next here? Oh, this is one of my favorites here. We've got the 2005 Contenders Aaron Rodgers auto. So on this card, we were looking at around 5,000 for a PSA 10, and a PSA 9 was about 2,000. And this video, when I made it, this was pretty much around the time that you and I went to the National.
2 weeks before. Yeah, it was 2 weeks before.
So this was the card that I had targeted to pick up at the National.
Spent 2.5 days straight looking for this card.
And I found a guy that had two of them, PSA 10s, and I was willing to offer 5,000, which at that time that was the highest price one had sold for at auction, and they wanted 7,500, right? So I was like, golly, this is crazy, right? So I had to pass on that, but I did. That's also the same time that I picked up the 2005 Contenders football sealed case. That was kind of like my consolation prize. Yeah. So this card now, and we just looked these prices up. A PSA 9 just sold for 2,400, and then a PSA 10 sold for around 9,300. Which the PSA 10 that's down quite a bit from its peak when it was like at around 13 or 14,000 at one point.
Yeah. Had
So
they made the Super Bowl this year, I think it would have been stayed around there. At the worst, stayed around, maybe even gone up.
yeah, for sure. So
But
what do you think this card does going forward?
so I think and it's going to hinge on him having one more deep run. People, he's one of the best quarterbacks, obviously, this generation. To me, arm talent, him and Patrick Mahomes may be the best in a long, 20 years or something. But I think the PSA 10s probably have a slow burn going up, a gradual burn going back up until he goes in the Hall of Fame. I think you'll see, a couple $100 a year uptick. But I think they settle probably somewhere around 10K and then have that slow build up. I don't think unless he wins another Super Bowl, you're not going to see a big spike up again. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I would kind of agree. Like, let's just say, he goes the rest of his career, doesn't win another Super Bowl. I don't know if this card ever gets to that $14,000 level that we saw it at. But obviously if he does win a Super Bowl, I could definitely see it, exceeding that price. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it gets back up to that level, somewhere around that, maybe a little bit over, and then that's kind of its peak. That's kind of where it's at. But the nines are a great buy at 2K. If you just want this card and you don't want your money tied up in a bad investment, that's a great buy to me.
Yeah,
it hasn't really changed at all on this.
This is definitely one of those cards where there's just a huge, drastic difference in price between a 10 and a 9.
Absolutely. But, think about this, that the 10s have basically almost doubled, but the 9s have only went up, a few $100. That's that to me, that just sends off red flags. Buy a 9,
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like if I was going to pick one of these up now, I think I would definitely go with the 9.
It's not ever going to go crazy, but is it, it's reasonable that a 9 goes from 2,500 up to 3,500, 4,000. I think that's reasonable over time.
And this is another instance where you look at these two cards where, like, just to the naked eye, the 9 looks better to me. Like the auto is running off the sticker on the 10.
Yep, I agree.
There's a little smudge on the auto on the 9 there, but I can live with that.
I think the border, is there more white border here than there is there? Maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little bit.
But it's not a full bordered card, so it's really hard to tell.
I could definitely live with the autograph smudge on the 9 for like 7,000 less.
Absolutely.
All right. So what's the next card we got up here?
Next one is 1998 Topps Chrome Peyton Manning Refractor. This is one of the better bargain buys, I think, out of the whole entire list.
Okay, so this card in a PSA 10 was anywhere from $750 to $950, and a PSA 9 was in the $350 range. So this is weird because, and we just kind of saw this with the Rodgers card, but like the PSA 9 hasn't really moved that much. It's around 400 to 500, but the PSA 10 has gone from like 750 to 950 all the way up to like 23 to 2,700.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy to think that a 10 has went up 3 times the amount, and the 9s went up about 1.4, 1.5 times the amount. That's pretty incredible. Yet again, go buy 5 or 6 9s for what 110 costs, and over time you'll probably come out ahead.
Yeah, this is like to me this is a perfect example of people that were investing maybe were buying 10s, and people that are collectors are buying the 9s.
And these are pretty tough grades, I think. If I remember right, 98 Topps Chrome football was full of refractor lines, centering problems. Am I right on that?
The
little scratches and the little pits in the chrome. I've opened probably 8 or 10 boxes over the years, and I remember that they were full of issues. And so, I understand the price difference between a 9 and a 10, because 10s are probably not that easy to get. I don't know what the pop is on them or anything, but still, I'd rather have a few 9s versus one 10 on this card myself.
This is another card that at that same national that year, like this was one of my big target cards, and I saw one.
You found one,
but it wasn't for sale.
It was Probstein had it, and he had it running at auction or fixing to start. I remember that.
Yeah, because I was like, how much? Not for sale. What do you mean it's
Not
not
for
for sale?
Not for sale.
I'll buy it right now. I wanted it right then, and I think I actually bid on the auction and I lost it there. So
Sounds about right. I
I've bid
think it
on
went for like
several.
12 or 1300 at that time, maybe, or something.
I've bid on so many of these over the years, and I've never won one.
So do you? Here's a question on this card right here. Do you worry about Well, a lot of these cards on here, but this one in particular. Do you worry about trimming things like that we've seen going on? I mean, on this card like this,
Um,
have you seen? I haven't seen any of these cards get trimmed, but
I
that,
wouldn't. I wouldn't say I worry about it, but it's definitely something I think about. As far as I think about it with any high end card that I buy nowadays.
mhm.
Um,
And the reason I'm asking is, does that, you as a collector or investor combo, does that make you lean more towards just buy a few nines because chances are maybe they're not tampered with? I mean, they still can be because I've seen lots of nines tampered with, but
yeah, I would say that it definitely plays a factor, especially if it's, and this is not one of those cards, but like if it's a card that there's been a lot of those particular ones outed as far as being trimmed or altered or recolored, whatever. Yeah, if it's a common card for that kind of stuff to be happening to, I would definitely look at more nines than probably what I used to.
nope, I agree. I'm gonna move over to the next one.
All right, so we've got the 2006 Bowman draft Clayton Kershaw auto, and on this card, like my thinking back then on this one was, with this being, such a modern card, it's, relatively. I don't think these are like super tough grades on the base, but I was just kind of like looking at PSA 10s, and at this time they were around 1100.
Completely flat.
Yeah, they've gone down a little bit. Like I know they had gotten down to as low as like 800, but I think they've kind of rebounded up to around 1,000.
Yeah,
So
they've hovered somewhere around 1,000. That's which is, to put that in perspective. I can't tell you any right now off the top of my head, but I could probably go run a search right now for prospect pitchers. Let's say Mackenzie Gore, left-handed guy who gets compared to Clayton Kershaw a lot. I bet you his PSA 10 base autos are at least a few $100.
yeah,
I mean, literally, he hasn't done anything yet. Clayton Kershaw has done everything. I mean, literally everything. And look at that gap is so narrow between the two. I mean, it's incredible to me. He is such a good buy. Me and you were talking about the other day on not just this card, but in general. He is such a good buy, in my opinion, long term. It's not even funny.
I mean he's without a doubt one of the best that's ever played the game, in my opinion. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you look at the era that he has played in compared to, some of the other guys that people would put at the top of the all-time pitching list, and just he has strung together like just some incredible seasons if you go and look at it. I mean,
It's phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. And like I said, in my lifetime, Greg Maddux is still the best, just because I think I liked him a lot as a kid growing up, and then it just didn't have electric stuff and was able to do what he was able to do. I still and then moving after Greg Maddux, Clayton Kershaw to me is the second best in my lifetime, and I have no problem with anybody arguing that he should be number one over Maddux. That's how high I think of him. And, and then you start talking about the Randy Johnsons and the Scherzers and the Pedro Martinez, the next level. But to me, Kershaw and Maddux, they're, I have no problem with anybody flip flopping them around, in my opinion. Roger Clemens probably is in that category, but everybody, the steroids, of course, kind of hurts his legacy a little bit.
so you're still a fan of buying this card in that range then?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even in nines, I don't know if we looked at nines at all, but they're probably half that cost. They're probably $500
Yeah.
or less. I mean, I think I saw, if you wanted to shoot over to BGS, I mean, I think I saw a BGS 9 that sold for $380 or something. I mean, think about that. I mean, It's incredible.
And Kershaw, like, he's not going to be one of those guys that just like, magically doubles or triples overnight. But, I can promise you someday this card's going to be worth more than $1,000.
And also, for newer collectors that may not understand the Bowman Chrome market back then compared to now, these guys didn't have near as many autos produced back then. And there was only 15, 20 guys per Bowman release. And Clayton Kershaw was one of the guys. He had no non-autos. So he only had the auto in 06. That's it. So it's the auto or you got no other base cards or anything. I don't think he had any. I think he had a 07 base Bowman card, if I remember right. And then 08 Bowman, he had the rookie autos when he started having some rookie autos. But,
yeah,
he had 06 Bowman draft and Bowman Sterling. And that was kind of his prospect cards. And they're a lot more limited back then than what they are now, for sure.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Clayton Kershaw long term.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are, to me, it's a no-brainer buy. This is what it looks like for – oops, I went too far.
Spoiler alert, huh?
Yeah, spoiler alert. But yeah, that's what it looks like. And, it's just a classic picture and right when the Bowman Chrome era started, of course, in the – 01 really with Pujols, and then was really gaining speed by this point in time. And it's a big time card. It's a lot bigger card than those prices suggest.
A good looking card too. I just like it.
I love the designs back then. 05 and 06 Bowman Chrome are just phenomenal to me. But
yeah. So next, I think
is the biggie.
Most people probably heard of this guy. We're talking about the 86 Fleer Michael Jordan. This is a card we're kind of looking at this one in a PSA 9 because the PSA 10 was already pretty crazy at the time, and a PSA 9 of this card, it varies a lot, and it still does to this day. Like at this time, I was looking at the 9s, and they were anywhere from 3,500 all the way up to 5,000, depending on the centering. Which when we were looking at these, you kind of pointed out the big difference in the centering on a lot of the 9s. So this is a card that in a PSA 9 is around $7,000 to $8,000 now. So, it's had a pretty solid increase, I would say. So what do you think about this card, going forward?
It's another one. It's another one. It's going to see those slow, steady increases. It's not, the LeBron, Michael Jordan GOAT talk over the last few years. Who's the greatest? It's helped this card. It's done nothing but help. I don't know anything major that would help until someday, hopefully, 40 years down the road when Michael Jordan passes away. I don't know of anything that might really just send it into a upward frenzy. But are you going to see slow increases on this? Absolutely. Especially if the market stays where it's at. Everybody. I don't care if you collect baseball, vintage baseball, football, hockey, basketball. It doesn't matter. Everybody wants this card. If you collect cards, this is a card to have.
Yeah, this is another one that I had this card in this particular grade, on my list, and I've had a lot of these cards on my list of ones I wanted to pick up, and it turns out maybe I just don't have enough money.
Because that's kind of a major problem when you go to buying some of these cards on this list, for sure.
I mean, these cards are going up faster than I can save up the money to buy them. So
it's great. I think this is one, though, that if you targeted and said, I want to buy a PSA 9 Jordan, I think over the next, if you save for, 6 months, a year, however long it took you, whatever, to do it, I think this is one that you could sell low end stuff and kind of flip your way up to this card, or save up to over the course of a year without it seeing a huge price increase. Yeah. Might it change $200 or $300? Of course, but not thousands, I don't think, at this point.
The next thing we're going to show on this list, this is going to be personally painful for both of us, and
that might be the biggest understatement that you ever said.
So what we're looking at here now is for this spot on the list, I actually included two sealed boxes, and we're looking at the 96 Topps Chrome basketball and the 2003 Topps Chrome basketball. And, a year and a half ago, you could get these for around $2,000 each. But I'm going to let you tell this story, Michael, at the National. What was that?
So in 2015 National,
okay, yeah.
Andy and I, the woman Andy was dating at the time, and my wife, we all kind of took the trip together, and we walked by one booth that had, I believe it was 8 of these, if I remember right, 6 or 8 of them, whatever it was.
Yeah.
They were $800 a box, and at the time they had been selling for what, $600, $700, and both of us were like, yeah, 800. It's well, they're probably going to go up someday. We ought to just buy them. And I remember my wife had, she had a couple $1,000s for a trip in her pocket, and she started to buy a couple of them. And I think I had like 5,000 cash with me, And so did I buy 96 Topps Chrome boxes and stash them back? No, I walked over and bought 2013 or 14 Bowman draft case or boxes or something, and of course, but yeah, we should have walked away with all 8 of those for less than what one box sells for now. Yeah,
and here's the
or around about the same. Yeah,
here's the prices of what they're at now. So if you want to cringe, I don't blame you, but for the 96 Topps Chrome, those are around $6,000 a box.
Yeah,
and then the 2003 Topps Chrome is around $4,000. So one of them is
2003
doubled, the other tripled.
Yeah, the 2003 Topps Chrome box, those stayed cheap for a very long time. Probably 2012, 13, 14, right through there. I busted, I don't know, 3 or 4 boxes of those. I think the cheapest I got it was around 120, 130, and then the most I probably paid was 200 or 250.
And these were hobby boxes, right?
Hobby boxes, yes, hobby boxes. I busted an absolute ton of retail back when they came out of 03. Busted those like people were busting Prism and Optic now. But I never dreamed in a million years that those would be so high, because they were everywhere, just like a lot of this stuff, And, I think a LeBron base rookie at release, if I remember right, $50 maybe, or something like that. And I think now, and I'm like, how crazy was it to not buy all these? And how did I not think ahead? And that's what people do when they're not thinking straight. But this stuff is so simple to me now. I think, look at the rookie classes, look at the product, buy every box you can and stash it back. And of course we didn't do that. And we knew, we talked about it. We knew where this was going. We were just too dumb to act on it.
Yeah. And it's something that I've gotten better at over the years, as far as, being able to have sealed product around. It's always so tempting to open it, but when you get boxes like this and at these prices, it's really not as tempting, because, you just kind of know that you're going to get slaughtered if you open them.
Sure. But when those boxes are $150, it's tough. It's tough not to open. But I'm the same way. I used to, it's better than anybody else. I used to bust boxes like a maniac by the hundreds per year, literally, of this older stuff. And
yeah,
I don't bust anything anymore, other than if I can go buy it at retail, retail Panini stuff, just to grade and sell some stuff. But how stupid were we on all this? This is one of the biggest regrets of my collecting life. Are these 2 boxes?
Yeah.
And we knew better. Point blank, we knew better. We didn't act.
Yeah, and that's the case with a lot of these cards. So let's go to the last card on the list here.
Let's see here. Hang on a second here. Oh, you had those up there for a while. Oh, yep.
So now we're looking at the 93 SP Derek Jeter, and this is one that, at the time I was looking at a 9. I was like, this one's kind of like a no-brainer, as far as like, there's no way you're gonna lose money on this. Like, Jeter obviously was going to be a Hall of Famer. So I knew that would spike on that one. And these were anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000. They're kind of all over the place, and they've kind of settled now around 4,500. I think a month or so ago they were probably selling for a little bit more than that, but I think 4,500. So this
Bowman
one,
President National in 2018, right around the time you did this video. Didn't you try to buy one or something, or a couple of them that were there? I don't know if you got a picture here in your deal, but I think you tried to buy one, didn't you?
I did. I'm trying to think of the price now.
3,500 maybe.
I think it was closer to the 4,000 range. Like
Yeah.
I was probably wanting to pay the 3,500, and I think they were pretty stuck on the 4,000, which at the time was top of the market. So
Yeah. I've owned maybe three of these. Never a nine. I graded a couple one time that I bought from the big card shop that I bought at that time, and I think the best one was a 7.5, and then the other one was a 7. And then I had one that was way low grade at one point, But these are, they're nice cards to have. There's a lot of them. It's not like a short printed card or anything like that. But everybody knows the condition, right? So you get a 9. I kind of understand the price being so high.
And I was my thinking at the time on this card was, trying to pick it up before it went up. But I never really looked at this card as, as far as a 9 goes, as one that's going to just continue to go up over the long haul. I was kind of looking at the short term Hall of Fame induction and stuff like that. But I kind of think these will probably, obviously I've been wrong tons of times before, but I think these will probably kind of stay where they're at right now. I don't see it like just going crazy anytime soon. Do you?
No, I don't. I definitely don't think so. I think, it's a safe hold. I think at the absolute worst and best case scenario, I think it's going to probably fluctuate somewhere between 3,500 and 4,500 from forever. I can't imagine anything just really making it spike up. Obviously now the 10s, yeah, they're going to see some spikes, but I mean, there's only a handful of them, and what are they? They're over $100,000, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Those are going to see big spikes, but you're talking if it goes from 100,000 up to 120, something like that, that's probably going to happen, but not the 9s.
Yeah, you talk about like the ultimate difference in price between a 9 and a 10. This is the card right here.
That's it. That is that. You're absolutely right.
You're definitely paying for the label on the 10s.
Big time. Big time.
God. So that was kind of fun and kind of painful, and to look back at this list because there's so many of these cards that I wanted to be able to pick up, but man, some of these went up like so much faster than what I thought they would. Like I thought these were going to be like slow movers where, you could buy them and then gradually over long periods of time they would go up.
Yeah, buy them, put them in a safe or safety deposit box for 5 years, and and look back, and you had 25% growth or something over 5 years, or
or even longer down the road. I was looking at
5-10 years. Oh yeah.
Man, some of these just they got a little bit crazy.
They did, and then you look at probably what 3 or 4 of them pretty well flat.
Yeah. And those are probably the ones that I'm going to be looking at to buy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the best buys on. I think the best buy to me, in my opinion, on there are a couple of the 9s, some of the PSA 9s where the 10s saw big spikes, and then the Kershaw. I think the Kershaw, to me, those are the best buys you can have.
Yeah, I would agree with that, for sure. Maybe the Peyton Manning 9 that looks.
Yeah, I think that's a hell of a deal to me. I mean, how can you go wrong at around $400 or $500 for that card when the 10s have seen such a crazy increase?
Yeah, because when does he go into the Hall of Fame?
He's got one more year to wait, so he'll go in 2022.
2022. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I
believe that's right.
His stuff is going to spike then. So if you
absolutely
Peyton Manning stuff, you better grab it quick because people are going to start looking at that too. Like as it gets closer, like even as early as like a year out, people are going to start looking at that.
I think right on his coattails, I think Drew Brees is probably one of the next ones that's going to retire at his age. And, I mean, his career's been pretty awesome. I mean, he leads everything, you know, but when he retires, he's going to be the all-time leader in pretty much everything quarterback related. And, yeah, if you want some of his, like his 01 Topps Chrome or Bowman, I think it's Bowman Chrome, isn't it? He's got Topps Chrome and Bowman Chrome both. But
yeah,
those refractors are probably pretty good buys right now. Another guy that's – I don't want to put him in the same category. I mentioned him earlier a little bit. I've been looking at Albert Pujols stuff a lot. I think if I was going to buy a player right now that's had just tremendous career that everybody just knows him now as a guy that can't run the bases and everything, but go look at his numbers. I mean, they're incredible. He's got a chance. He's got an outside chance to finish probably third all-time in home runs. And he could actually make it up there towards right near the top if he stays healthy for a few more years. Okay. And he's just – I think he's a good buy right now. I think – you know, I don't know what his 01 Bowman Chrome autos are up to, but they're probably a good buy.
They're high.
they're high, but they're probably still a good purchase because
those things have been high for a long time, though. Yeah,
well, he's going to go down as one of the best hitters ever, and just doesn't get talked about in recent times for obvious reasons because he's not he hasn't aged well. His type of game hasn't aged well, but. Man, him and Miguel Cabrera both just tremendous how good they are.
I mean, with Pujols, I mean, you're right. He's going to go down as one of the best hitters of all time. But also, I mean, I think it's okay to say that over the last, 3 or 4 years, he's been terrible.
Absolutely. So here's how terrible he's been, okay? He has been so bad that his career batting average has just now came down to a even 300 based on his last 3 or 4 years. I think when he came to the Angels, I don't know the exact number, but I want to say like 329 career hitter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's been terrible with the Angels.
I mean, that's just incredible to me, Yeah, but you're right. He's been terrible. The contract was terrible. It's, had he just stayed in St. Louis and played 3 or 4 more years there and retired, I think he gets looked at probably a little bit different.
Yeah, and what a great move by the Cardinals to let him walk.
Sure, that's what we do. The Cardinal way, and
I give him credit for that.
More teams should do that. I mean, I hate to say let these guys go, but I think he signed that deal. He was 31 when he signed the deal with the Angels. And the Cardinals squeezed, two World Series championships out of him. I think, 3 MVP awards. I think he finished in the top 5 in MVP voting all 11 years with the Cardinals. You got your money's worth out of him. He's not worth the money now. Let somebody else pay him. But the Angels have done this a couple times. They did it with Josh Hamilton. Josh Hamilton had all kinds of problems, and he'd had a good little run with Texas, and Texas let him walk. We went to the Angels, and then I think they ended up getting him back in that trade, and the Angels had to eat like 80% of the contract.
Yeah, it's insane.